Today we're going to talk about some of the foods that we should take out of our diet. And, I assume we all want more energy and vitality, and we're willing to take some action to go towards that, because today some of the things are going to be quite interesting. It will challenge some of your perspectives. And I just muted all the participants for now. So if you got any questions, please type it into a window, and I'll pause every so often and answer them as we go. And yeah, and this is part of the benefit of being live, because you get to type in your questions as we go. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to cover what are some energy parasites and why should you care. What strategy can you deploy to reduce or eliminate them? And what if you can't eliminate them? What do you do? How can you cope better? So as per usual, I encourage active interaction, and that's always going to trump passive consumption. So please do type questions as we go, and I'll be able to answer them. Okay, so what exactly are energy parasite and why should you care? So if we go back to the executive warrior energy formula that we covered off in module 1, as you can see from the formula, we have covered off sleep in module 1, relax to strike harder. We cover food, eating is heaven, which is second module. Exercise in module 3, which is all about movement and parallel growth, both internal and external growth, where it has to go hand in hand. Otherwise, there's no sustainable energy improvement. We cover off supplements in module 4, and also introduction to breathing or qi in relaxation and exercise modules. And today we will cover physical parasite. If you missed any of the modules, you can go back to some of the emails I sent out and be able to download those modules. Let me know if you have any trouble accessing them, and also particularly if there's any information that's presented in the recorded module that you want more of, or you think it's missing, please let me know, because then I can use that information to have those prepared in advance for future people in the classes. And that's one of the useful feedback that will really help me improve this course in terms of delivery. And so when it comes to the physical parasite, just note the minus part of this equation and the fact that it's squared. In mathematics, squared means doubling effect. And in the context of my formula, it demonstrates the negative power that physical parasite can have on your total physical energy. You can do well in every other element of the equation, but the parasite, because of their multiplying negative impact, has the power to negate all that good work you put into elevate your energy level. So, example, in the module 3, we'll talk about movement. There was a scientific study recently that was mentioned in that module, where we talk about how 6 hours of sitting, of not moving much, will negate a whole hour worth of exercise in terms of the benefit, right? So if you sit still and not move for 6 hours on a regular basis or more, you can work out every single day in the gym for an entire hour and get no benefit because you sit there for 6 hours. So that's an example of a negative physical energy parasite, but in the context of movement, and we've already talked about that in module 3, so I'm not going to cover that off again. Now, there are many physical energy parasites, and it's easy to ignore them for a number of reasons. First, because there is a significant lag between cause and effect. That means you can do something destructive to your health, like, take up smoking, but you won't get cancer immediately, but decades down the track. Just like how it takes, it took decades to prove smoking can indeed cause cancer. So same thing happens here. When you ignore the physical energy parasite, it won't just have an immediate impact. So it's easy to ignore. Second, most physical energy parasites are actually small and seem, quite innocent. Um, and seem quite innocent. So it's easy to think your body can handle it. And surely this little harm doesn't amount to much, right? So, well, like the mosquito in this picture, the bite in itself is quite innocent and you probably can handle it, a mosquito bite. But those small things can potentially give you yellow fever, malaria, West Nile virus, Zika, Ross River fever, St. Louis encephalitis, filariasis, and more, right? These small things can have big impact, bigger than you like to think. You can ignore physical energy parasite, but this will cost you in terms of energy. Now let's look at this picture that I got from the internet of a leaky dam. Now, what do you think is worse than a hole in a leaking dam? What do you think, Scott? What's worse than a hole in a leaking dam? So, well, I think what's worse than a leaking hole is when you don't know there is a hole and you carry on business as usual. And that could be because no one is looking for the hole and we just ignore, right? This hole will eventually spread. Cracks in the structure will spread, and the entire dam will collapse suddenly without notice. And when that happens, it's too late to do anything about it. There's no holding back the dam now. You've only keep an eye out for those leaks in the first place. So energy parasite is just like those early holes in dam. Initially, they look just like tiny little hole. Your energy level isn't affected by that much initially. What you don't know is these leaks are not just about energy, but it's doing slow damage to your entire being. Like the hairline cracks in the dam that slowly but surely damaging the structure. In all these energy leaks, you'll not only negate all the effect you do to improve your vitality, but it has the potential to destroy your health decades down the track. Just like being able to spot hairline cracks on the dam, being able to spot these physical energy parasites is the first step to be able to do something about them. So let me help you discover just exactly what are some of these physical energy parasites. Okay, so physical energy parasite, the way I define it, are energy depleting factors that manifest physically. So both internal and external to your body. And I categorize them into three main groups. There are three main groups of energy parasite. First is physical pollution. So pollution, I'm actually talking about mold, allergies, erlang, drugs, heavy metals, pesticides, electromagnetic radiation. Second group, I'm talking about food choices. So GMO, certain foods, addictions, alcohol, and we're going to cover those in more detail in the next section. And the third group is biology, which is certain biological effect can deplete you in terms of your energy level. So some examples including SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, leaky gut, gut dysbiosis or imbalance of gut bacteria or your microbiome in your gut, impaired detox, certain genetic mutation, thyroid issues, immune dysfunction. These manifest physically to suck energy out of whatever you put in or whatever improvement you're trying to make. And so the pollution energy parasite is the first one I want to dig into a little bit more depth. And these include all forms of pollution that requires your body to remove as a form of self-preservation. So look, your body is extremely sophisticated machine. It's a beautiful and it's elegantly designed. It's a self-healing machine that no human creation is even close in terms of trying to mimic its self-repair capacity. Okay, and we're trying to do that with robotics these days. That's the cutting edge to create self-repairing robots. You think, great, my body is capable of healing itself through natural detox process. So what's up? What's wrong with this, pollution energy parasite, right? I can now. It's worth remembering your goal is to build above average energy, not just enough. If enough is fine, then perhaps you can just want to live a mediocre, energy level, and that's okay. But if you want to do more, so now keep that in mind. Think about this. Imagine you have 100 points of energy credits every day, and that's your entire day's energy budget. Your detox system requires some of these energy credit to function. So does your brain function. So what percentage of energy credit do you want to take away from your brain function in order for you to detox and remove pollution from your body? So if you're a high performer, you probably like to say, well, 0. You want to devote 100% of your energy credit towards your brain so you can focus and you can be creative and you can work to achieve your purpose in life. Well, doesn't that mean minimization of pollution and energy parasite is a smart investment of your time? So some example of physical pollution parasite I've mentioned so far is the mold, allergy, Erlang syndrome, drugs, heavy metal, pesticides, and electromagnetic radiation. Of these, mold, Erlang syndrome, and electromagnetic radiation are probably the most surprising, and whereas the others, the toxins and stuff, are more obvious. So I won't go too much into those because of the time constraint. What I'll do is I'll understand the more surprising elements of these parasites. Now, firstly, mold. Very few people are aware that mold exposure can affect your energy level. In fact, Dr. Richie Schumacher has attributed 37 major health issues to toxic mold exposure. And one of the top symptoms is actually fatigue, weakness, mood swings, unusual pain, and headache, all of which draw energy from you and prevent you from pursuing your goals. If you have strange, unexplained tiredness, you may want to have your living place checked for toxic mold. Second, Erlang syndrome, or also known as scotopic sensitivity syndrome, is a disorder where certain colors create significant visual distress. So it takes an unusual amount of energy for visual processing. So that leads to reading difficulties, eye strain, brain strains, and thus result in significant amount of mental energy being used to cope, energy that could be better used. You can consider this form as a form of like color pollution that's distinct to the individual genetics for those affected. Now, treatment includes using of color filters, and these have seen dramatic improvement in mental energy levels. It's a worthwhile consideration for investment if you think you're having trouble considerable strain in reading. I just want to play a short video just to see the effect of it. So if you can see this.
Them how it gets blurry and it hurts my eyes and my head and my stomach.
So just listen to Blair reading without the glasses. You can tell it's very slow, and she complains about hurting her eyes. And now check it out with
Yesterday, Bob
filter.
took a trip to a city market that was somewhat like a store, but a great deal bigger. It didn't have any bread or canned goods like the grocery stores, but there were a great many big boxes of vegetables and fruit.
So if you will notice, there's a significant improvement. I mean, she went from almost like being completely unable to read to being able to read as a much older age. And it's almost like the effect of upgrading your brain. And these are the energy that goes into visual processing that, if better used, will allow you to enhance your ability to function in other ways. And lastly, I want to talk just briefly about electromagnetic radiation as an environmental pollution that's becoming more and more widespread due to the popularity of wireless devices and smart home. What's not so well known is that EMF exposure creates a significant amount of highly dangerous form of free radicals. These things are called peroxynitrate. So peroxynitrate are molecules that create a single or double strand DNA damage and creating like a fundamental damage to how your cell functions. So this is not about ionizing, it's not ionizing radiation, it's not heating effect. And most EMF exposure tests only test whether it's gonna immediately kill the cell by ionizing or by heating it. There's not so much study into other biological effects such as DNA damage caused by peroxynitrate. So all of these, sure, your body can cope with, but it will cost you in terms of energy credits. The next one group of physical parasites are the food parasite, and this is the stuff that you eat. These food take energy away from you instead of giving you energy. So normally you expect to be energized when you eat, but when you eat this type of food, it will take energy. It's a minus. It has such a significant energy impact that food parasite is very significant. And taking some of these three classes of food parasite has transformed many lives. Many people I know personally has their life turned around when they take away certain food rather than adding. So there's a lot of focus in the industry about what I should eat, what new things I should add to my diet, but very, very little about taking away, because, hey, taking away food doesn't sell food, right? So if you're a food industry, there's no incentive to tell people to stop eating certain food. So, but this will transform lives. And there are three classes of food energy parasite. The food that creates sensitivities and allergies, food that create damage from within, and food that creates cravings and hunger. Okay, so firstly, food that creates sensitivity and allergies. So we've talked about the importance of inflammation reduction throughout this course, because the inflammation is bad news when it comes to your energy in the short term. And in the long term, it will kill you in the form of cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autoimmune illness, and so much more. Food sensitivity and allergy are essential inflammation responses. That's what they are. Eating food that creates inflammation and allergy is a super fast way to destroy any hope of living a life of vitality. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time into this because I have already discussed this in Module 2. If you need a revision, go and check out Module 2 and let me know if you have any further questions. Now, food that creates damage within. Well, there are food that creates bad immune reactions only apply to some people depending on the unique genes and living condition. There are some food that will damage your body regardless of who you are. In Module 2 of the diet, I mentioned the effect of human intervention in food production in terms of GMO and highly modified pseudo-fresh food. Here's just a very quick refresher. So GMO food are very high in pesticides. So in particular, corn, soy, very high in pesticides because farmers no longer have to be selective in spraying because GMO food are pesticide resistant. So highly modified pseudo-fresh food like bananas and corn are very high in sugar and low in nutrient content. And these key energy parasites, because getting your body to remove the pesticides and to tolerate the inflammation created by highly modified pseudo-food, takes a significant amount of energy. And if you can reduce or eliminate them, it's one of the best things you can do to achieve superhuman energy. The first food parasite I want to draw your attention to now is the innocent looking wheat. So I want to start with this because wheat is so embedded in our culture, and it's difficult for so many people to acknowledge its damaging effect in your health. Majority of people think that you only need to avoid wheat if you have Crohn's disease or celiac disease, but what you may not know is that wheat gluten affects not 10%, 20% of people, it affects 100% of people, regardless of what the allergy testing says. So what you may not know that is most allergy testing for gluten only tests for one specific gluten immune response, alpha-galiden 33. Just one. That's just one protein. Modern wheat is artificially manipulated for high gluten value through crossbreeding because it makes bread taste better. It makes it more addictive. It sells more bread. But this means there are numerous identified gluten proteins that your body have no idea how to deal with. This will create a reaction in your immune response that your usual allergy testing, the testing will only cover a single gluten, will simply not be able to pick them up because it doesn't test for all possible strains of gluten. So you can live for years feeling constantly tired from your gluten allergy, but not even know about it. So there's a recent research to show that more than 50% of people are living with gluten intolerances and they don't know it. So even if you don't feel immediate symptom in the research published in 2013, Dr. Alessio Fasano from Harvard found that gluten in wheat increases the production of zonulin. So here on the slide, you will see this is Dr. Fasano on the left, and on the right, this is the paper is published in 2013. So this is cutting edge. If you go to your GP, he probably knows nothing about this, and you'll say gluten and wheat is perfectly fine to consume. So what zonulin is a protein that regulates how wide the cells of your gut lining should be. So think of them as the gatekeeper of your gut that determine how wide the door should open. You need the door to be open to the friendliest, like the small, fully digested nutrient particles, and keep out the large, nasty baddie that will try to bust through the gate. Like partially undigested food particles that's not ready for your body to use. When you increase zonulin, which wheat does happen, the gate is left wide open. So you end up with having a lot of large undigested food getting into your body and wreak havoc. Your body can't use this and gets very alarmed when they find this in your blood, and so they panic. And that means your entire body becomes inflamed, and your limited energy resources are now used to deal with the information instead of powering your performance. So the question for you would be, do you want wheat enough to spend your precious energy to deal with them or the effect of them, or would you prefer to enhance your performance? It's a choice. Another food energy parasite that I want to mention is the #1 recreational drug in the world. A drug that, according to Center for Disease Control and Prevention, killed 88,000 people in 4 years in United States alone. So 88,000 people died because of this drug. So what drug do you think I'm referring to? Cocaine? Cigarettes? What do you think? Sugar? Close. Not quite. So sugar is like a drug, but it is classified as food. So, well, it's alcohol. Alcohol, it's perfectly legal. And despite killing an average 22,000 people every year in the US, um, it's an energy parasite in a number of ways. Because first, alcohol needs to be broken down in order for your body to process it. So the body uses that using this thing called NAD. NAD, it's a coenzyme nicotinamide adenine denucleotide. A bit of a mouthful. So NAD, reducing it to a form called NADH is how your body basically processes alcohol. And your body have a limited amount of NAD. This is the very same coenzyme that your body uses to metabolize food for energy. And what that means is when you drink alcohol, your body prioritizes the use of NAD for alcohol breakdown instead of energy production. So you, by that means you're diverting resources and you're reducing the amount of energy you will have to function by drinking alcohol. And second, both alcohol types, ethanol and methanol, are found in all alcoholic drinks, and both are considered toxins, although methanol is significantly more toxic. So much so that most deaths from homebrew comes from methanol poisoning. Once the alcohol enters your bloodstream, your liver drops all priorities and to deal with the immediate danger, and that means the production of ketones. So your high, which is your high octane fuel for powering your cells, and that stops. So if you're on a keto diet, you will not be in ketosis when you drink alcohol. Again, priority diversion is taking a toll on energy level. The damaging effect of alcohol doesn't stop there. When your body digests and breaks it down, a known carcinogen is produced along with a large amount of free radical known as reactive oxygen species, or ROS. So the ROS are able to create various cellular injuries and DNA damage, lipid peroxidation, and protein modification. You're probably familiar with DNA damage, and less so with lipid peroxidation and protein modification. Just think about the damage like this. ROS, reactive oxygen species, to your body is like an intruder to your home who doesn't just destroy your furniture, but take over your home altogether with his friends, trashing your house while they party on after kicking you out. So this toxin depletes your body's most important detoxification stores: glutathione, vitamin C, and N-acetylcysteine. So vitamin C is used in large amounts in collagen synthesis for your skin. So when you drink a lot of alcohol, you deplete vitamin C, and therefore that's why alcoholics tend to look older, have bad skin than non-drinkers. The reduction of glutathione and acetylcysteine is also means your body's resistance to cancer is reduced. So there's actually epidemiological studies to show that people who consume large amount of alcohol have sharply increased risk of certain cancers. What's especially troubling is there's the brain cancer and esophageal cancers, both which are increasing in frequency at alarming rate. And in women, what they found that even moderate, I'm not talking about high, moderate alcohol consumption is linked with higher rate of breast cancer. And do note that men do get breast cancer just like women. So it's not a woman exclusive disease. And with this is moderate alcohol consumption. So alcohol is a major energy depleting parasite, but because we're trained to think you can't have fun without alcohol, we like to underplay its damaging effect on human performance. So drinking in moderation is good for you, they like to say, and remember, hey, resveratrol in wine is good for your heart. Well, we busted that myth last week because you need to drink 41 glasses of red just to get enough resveratrol to get basic protection, right? So Alcohol is a performance parasite. It will suck and reduce energy. And if you want abundant energy, so much so that you don't know what to do with all that buzz, nah, I mean, if you already have that, you can take a hit. You can have a, let your hair down, have a bit of a drink every so often. But if you are having, energy issues on occasions, and you're already having this warning sign, maybe you want to think twice about putting more small holes in your already leaking dam. The last thing I want to mention briefly about food. This is I was concentrating a lot of food because this is very important. The last thing I want to talk about is damaged fat, like hydrogenated vegetable oils, heated vegetable oils, and basically vegetable in general, because most people do not know this. Vegetable oils are one of the unhealthiest oils you can consume, especially if they are heated or if they're hydrogenated. So I think there's a lot of press about hydrogenation and being bad. They become trans fat, which is a synthetic fatty acid that makes your blood sticky because it reduces your body production of this molecule called prostacyclin. If your body cannot produce enough prostacyclin, blood clots can form in your arteries and increase your risk of heart disease. So worst of all, these hydrogenated damaged fat can stay within your body for up to 8 months. When you fry food with vegetable oil, you are creating a lot of hydrogenated fat. Even if unheated version of the same vegetable oil do not have any. So when you heat the food, it actually creates, it oxidizes and creates what's this substance called advanced glycation end product as well. And again, these things make your blood sticky and inflame body. And there's even a study to show, hey, these trans fat actually make your memory bad. According to a study recently published, participants who consume high level of trans fat remember 11 fewer words compared to those who consume lower levels of trans fat. So fried food. But the main reason why I recommend against vegetable oil is because they're very high omega-3, and using them exclusively for cooking will create an imbalance in your body, generating a body-wide inflammation. And remember, inflammation is a major energy parasite. So furthermore, vegetable oil, when heated, also create this thing called thromboxane formation. It's a factor that clots your blood, as well as two toxins, cyclic aldehyde and acrylamide. So instead of using these vegetable oil, maybe go for coconut. Coconut oil is significantly more stable and unlikely to get damaged when heated, as well as grass-fed butter and ghee. Using good oil like olive oil, sesame in small quantities as a dressing and unheated. So the next food group of food parasites that I will talk about are food that creates cravings and hunger. So it sounds like an oxymoron, right? Kind of. Food is supposed to make you full, but latest research has shown that what anecdotal evidence has already demonstrated for years. Some food actually makes you hungrier, even if you just eat it. Being hungry affects your energy level in a number of ways. First, you might become hangry, angry, because you try not to eat and you're starving. And you eat this food that makes you hungry. And that puts you in the bad mood. Bad mood is always bad news for energy. Second, if you give in this the urge to eat, you spend time finding food to eat, that could be better used in actually being productive, right? So what are some of these foods that makes you hungry? Well, fructose. So we think fruit is good for you. I think that's a bit of a myth. So fruit is rich in fructose, so fruit sugar has to be good for you. That's what I was taught with all these bubble teas in Taiwan. They mainly made with fruit sugar. Or if you have bubble tea or bubble tea, as they know in the US, if you watch Karate Kid, In a paper published in the Proceeding of National Academy of Sciences of US of A, there's a research that found that fructose create a greater brain response in the reward center and in the visual cortex when volunteers actually looked at the image of food. What that means is greater cravings when compared to normal glucose sugar. Fructose also reduced the volunteers' resistance to high-calorie food in front of delayed monetary reward. So they will actually choose to eat the food rather than getting a monetary reward as a result of not eating. Yeah, so that's why people like to use fructose in food, in a lot of processed food. The main reason that fruit is for that to happen is fructose doesn't create the response as normal sugar or glucose, and thus your brain has difficulty in telling you if you're full. So you eat it, your body feels this, sweetness, but it can't tell. It doesn't feel like you've had anything. So you actually can't create more cravings, not just visually, but also biologically. The next thing I want to talk about is artificial sweeteners. So in the Yale Journal of Biology and Medicine 2010, created by Jing Yang, she found that artificial sweeteners only partially triggers your brain's reward centers, but that means it doesn't satisfy you and actually drive you to crave for more sweets than traditional natural sweeteners. Similar action to fructose. And another finding from this study is that zero-calorie nature of artificial sweeteners actually trains your brain to indulge in more sweet things than otherwise. So the indulgence actually enlarge your cravings in sweet things, and that leads to overconsumption of calories overall. And that corroborates with research published in Neuroscience, where several large-scale studies have found that a positive link between the use of artificial sweetness and weight gain. So food energy has a fundamental impact to how you feel, or how hungry you are, and how much energy you have. And if you know this, you won't have the energy you deserve. So I would maybe just pause. Do you have any questions around the food parasites I mentioned so far? Great. Okay, cool. So let's move on. So how are we going for time? Okay. So next group of food parasite biological, which I'll talk a little bit about. So biology, which is how body functions. Within your human biology, there are certain conditions when present will steal energy for you. I'm not going to mention everything, but I will talk about the top condition to look out for when it comes to feeling energetic. So firstly, digestive issues. So if you have stomach surgery, or if you have indigestion, SIBO, leaky gut, and gut microbiome issues, you'll create energy problem in a number of ways. And firstly, nutrient absorption. When you have digestive issues, often you'll suffer from nutrient deficiency, in particular iron, zinc, protein, fat, magnesium, iodine, all of which are essential for energy production. If you lack, for example, iodine, your thyroid will not function well, and that is a recipe for weight gain in itself. And if you have digestive issues or stomach surgery, weight loss surgery, your absorption of certain type of nutrient will be diminished, and that will reduce, kind of creates a bit of a vicious cycle. So fat, which is also used to create ketones, the high octane fuel that your body love, will not be digested well. We talk about iodine. Digestive issues also create inflammation. You may not know that, but over 70% of your body's immune system is actually in your gut. When your gut is damaged and not functioning well, your immune system gets kicked off into high gear. And that's not so bad if it's temporary, but if that lasts, then you'll create persistent internal stress in your body, and stress, that means loss of energy. So if you have digestive issues, you will have energy parasite that override so much of the effort you try to get into healthier. Another condition that interferes with your body energy production is impaired detoxification pathways. So every single one of you have small genetic mutations known as single nucleotide polymorphisms, also known as SNPs. Some of these mutations, like MTHFR or ApoE4 and SOD2, will mean that your body has reduced capacity to remove toxins through methylation or transsulfuration pathways. And as you know, toxins are not good for energy production. And if you have these mutations, looking for strategies to reduce their impact is going to be crucial if you want better energy. So lastly, if you have thyroid issues like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, where your immune system attacks your own thyroid cells, you are almost guaranteed to have weight issues or have energy problem. So we've gone through a lot of various parasites, and I'm just going to review them because we are about to go into what you can do about them. So let's summarize what we covered so far. So we talk about pollution energies, parasite, in particular mold, Erlang syndrome, electromagnetic radiation. Within the food parasite, I mentioned that there are food that create sensitivities, allergies, mentioned in module 2. Food that create damage within gluten, alcohol, GMO, and heated trans fat. And the food that creates cravings and hunger, fructose and artificial sweeteners. So within these biological energy parasites, I also mentioned digestive issues, genetic mutations, and thyroid issues. So none of these lists are exhaustive. So because there's so many energy parasites, it's simply impossible to name them all within the time we have. But it's important to pay attention, particularly if you are doing something to improve your energy and you're not feeling the impact as fast or as sustained as you should have. I also don't want to bore you to death with the encyclopedia of all possible energy parasites here as well. So the examples here are simply to explain their role within the energy formula and to help you understand how we can actually put this into action. How can we fix this? How do you take action? So now you can, maybe hide in a bomb shelter and eat only carrots and water for the rest of your life, or simply never attend a fun party ever. So I think there's a better way, and a practical strategy for dramatically reducing energy parasite while still allowing you to live a party-filled life is possible. So there's a practical strategy. So let me show you how. So how do you eliminate energy parasite? So we'll start off with the food energy elimination. When looking at physical energy parasite, you need to understand, like parasites, real parasite, the effect on you is negative. So it's like putting on the brakes on your supercar, right? It'll slow you down, whether you acknowledge them or not. The challenge for you in taking the brakes off your life is probably more psychological than logical. So logically, we know there's a lot of reason these things are bad, yeah. But what and who you surround you with, as well as what you eat or not to eat, are influenced by habits, emotion, culture, social pressure, biology, and finance. It's a multitude of factors. To achieve dramatic increase in energy requires dramatic changes to how you live, and this can seem daunting to many people. And yet, you know that having this amazing level of energy is going to get you where you want to go quicker. So what can you do? start with micro habits. So just like life, just about every major change, significant change often starts small. So think about how white ants or termites can bring down an entire building. They eat away at the objective, slowly but surely. And when the whole building falls, people are shocked. How did that happen overnight? So you can create dramatic changes, but it's about starting small, working on the most impactful thing first. And I like to use food parasite as an example because you will experience, as you experience what it feels like to be free from certain parasite, you will learn what it's like not to have them. Only then will you know whether your previous habits of eating these are really out of enjoyment or was it just habitual or driving by biological craving. So driven by biological craving. And it's like my journey when I discovered sugar is not only me giving me man boobs. So once upon a time, I have man boobs, and it's stealing my energy. And when I actively start to reduce intake, going from having 2 sugars in my coffee to 1 sugar and to 0, and then one day I went to cafe, the barista handed me a coffee with 2 sugar. It was so sweet. I can't make myself drink it. It's at that moment I realized, hey, my taste for sugar is simply a habit formed from years of conditioning. It's like, hey, 2 sugars. You know, everyone says 2 sugars. What I thought was my regular taste for sweetness can be changed. My old regular is now extreme sweet. So 2 sugar in my newly acquired palate, and I'm in control to program a new taste preference to create whatever levels of health and vitality I desire. It's the most empowering realization for me to know that I am in control of my biology. It's like Neo from Matrix. I can create my own taste reality for base vitality. So I know if you want to control how you feel, you want more energy, you too can be successful in overcoming old habits and eliminate whatever energy parasite you want to. And this is how you go about it. Start with food energy because this is going to give you the biggest impact by none. So do an experiment, 30-day challenge of a food that creates sensitive allergies plus wheat and alcohol.